Right, so the Premier League starts next week, and I thought what better way to celebrate the return of the Premier League than do my predictions. I'm talking about teams that will get relegated, league winners, and teams that will qualify for Europe. Before we get into the video, let me know your predictions in the comments. Right, 20th place going straight back down, I've got Luton Town. I just don't think any of Luton's signings have stood out, and their squad is championship standard at best. I mean, their stadium says it all in it, and I do think they got a bit lucky in the championship playoff final last season. So yeah, I've got Luton going straight back down, and I think the quality of the Premier League is going to be too much for them in the end. Now going down with Luton Town, I've got another team that got promoted last season, Sheffield United. There's no doubt they are going to struggle without Ndiaye, who was their best player last season, and you know, we've seen in the past that they are a bit of a yo-yo club. They are another club that haven't signed anyone that stands out. The only way I do see them staying up is if they replace Ndiaye and bring in some Premier League proven players. The last team I think could get relegated is Wolves. Now with everything going on with FFP and Lopetegui wanting to leave, there's just no way they stay up this season. They lost a player and a half in Ruben Neves, who's been their best player for a couple of seasons now. They're going to have to raise funds to make signings if they do want to stay up, and so far it's not looking good for them at all. Mate, I think Bournemouth are a waste of space in this league, but I've got them just avoiding that drop. They've signed a couple of players, but no one that really stands out. Now with Michael Jordan as one of the owners, maybe they'll spend a bit more into the squad. Now another team I've got scraping relegation is Everton. They managed to survive relegation on the final day last season, and I think something's got to change at that club. They fought relegation off for the past 2 seasons. Sean Dyche has a full season to work with these players, and if he can get them playing good football like he did at Burnley, then they will do well. But with that, they need marquee signings. I hope Dele Alli gets back to his best, because I think he could be a focal point for Everton in the coming season. You know, a player that they could build a team around. They've had a decent pre-season, winning 4 out of their 5 games. But you know, we've seen in the past the team could perform well in pre-season, but absolutely flop when it comes to the Premier League. I've got Fulham finishing 15th, and I do think that they will be fighting relegation at certain points of this season. Talks of Mitrovic wanting to leave, and I think that will be a big blow for them if he does end up going. They've brought in Raul Jimenez, but he's getting a bit old, and I think they do need to bring in another striker to support him. I am a big fan of them signing Calvin Bassey. By the minute, they've got too many players that don't want to be there, and you know, that could impact the dressing room. However, if they can keep a hold of Pellegrini and a couple of other star players, there's no reason they can't stay up this season. I think Burnley are going to finish 14th. What a season they had in the Championship last year, getting promoted on the first attempt after getting relegated the season before. I think we can all agree that Burnley aren't a Championship team, and they showed that last year, dominating the Championship with 100 points. Vincent Kompany's done a good job, and I think rather than focusing on finishing high up in the Premier League table, their focus should be on Premier League safety. So their focus should be on building a foundation for the squad. Now, I think last season was a bit of a settling in season for Nottingham Forest after being promoted back to the top flight. I do think they are going to have a better season this year, and that's why I've got them to finish 13th. We've got young players with huge potential like Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs-White, and if they can keep a hold of these players, then they can finish the season strong. Anthony Elanga is also a massive addition for them. He's got good pace, good dribbling, and he can certainly trouble a few defenders this season. If Forest can build on last season and get a couple of key players in, there's no reason they can't push for mid-table. Steve Cooper's a class manager, and if he can get the best out of his players, they'll be in for a decent season. Coming in at 12th, Crystal Palace. Zaha's a massive loss for them, and there's also talks of Michael Olise going to Chelsea. As long as they can replace those players, I think they'll be fine this season. They still got Eze, who's a baller. He deserves to be playing at the Euros next season. Not sure what I think about their kit. Hodgson sticking around. If he can steady the ship, they'll be in for a cheeky little 12th place finish. I do think West Ham will struggle this season because they've lost their best player in Declan Rice. But I don't think they're going to struggle as much as people think. Everyone seems to be thinking they'll be fighting relegation this season, but as long as they spend the money they receive for Declan Rice wisely, they should be in for a decent position. It's £105 million they've got to spend on players. I think Harry Maguire and Edson Alvarez would be massive additions to the squad for them. Maguire's a great player, but I just don't think it's worked out for him at Man United. There's no doubt he will thrive at a club like West Ham, obviously bringing in that international experience as well. And David Moyes is definitely the man for the job, but he needs to be backed by the board if he wants to succeed. In mid-table, I've got Brentford. Ivan Toney's going to be a big miss for them, and he ain't going to be playing until at least January, so they are going to need Kevin Schade to step up. There's also rumours of David Raya going to Arsenal, and he's going to be hard to replace if he does end up making that switch over to North London. He's been one of the most consistent goalkeepers at a high level for the past few seasons. Brentford have strengthened their defence by bringing in Nathan Collins from Wolves. The young centre-back with massive potential, and you know, he was being linked with top clubs before signing for Brentford. They just missed out on Europe last season, and I think they'll fail to make Europe once again. Now, starting off the top half of the table, I've gone for Aston Villa. I think Emery's a top coach, and that's why they can attract top players like Diaby and Pau Torres. Tielemans is a great signing, but he's a bit inconsistent, so they are going to have to watch out for that. But they've got some great depth in midfield. Obviously, securing the Conference League for them is massive, and if they do reach the latter stages of that competition, they will shift their focus away from the league. Winning the Conference League would be a big statement for them. I've got them to win the Conference League anyway, so they aren't going to have to worry about their league position when it comes to qualifying for Europe. Brighton are another team that had a very good season last season, and you know, they overachieved. They lost Cucurella and Graham Potter to Chelsea and still went on about their business like they've never lost them. I like their talent coming through. The likes of Evan Ferguson, Julio and Ciso can play a vital role for them in the upcoming season. They've got some of the best recruitment around, and the fact they've got Europa League is massive. So they are going to need a bit of squad depth, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. However, I do think playing in Europe is going to take its toll on them, and they are going to finish 2 places lower than last season. Now I think Tottenham will finish in 7th, but only if Harry Kane stays. If he leaves, then I can see them finishing 9th or even mid-table. Obviously they got a new manager in Postecoglou, but I do think he needs a season to build a team that can challenge for trophies and top 4. Is he a good manager? I don't know, because he's managed Celtic in what is pretty much a 2-team league. Hopefully Son can get back to his best, because last season's wasn't the best of seasons for him. I think Maddison's a good signing for them, but I honestly believe that where Spurs finish depends on whether Kane goes or leaves. And to be fair, I do want to see him leave Spurs because I think he deserves trophies. He's been a big fish in a small pond for way too long. Now in 6th place and just missing out on those Champions League places, I've got Chelsea. They can't get any worse than last season, and not having European football will actually help them. You know, we've seen it in the past with teams like Liverpool and Arsenal. They're finally selling players and getting rid of that dead wood. They had 32 players last season, 3 whole team. One thing I'm worried for them about is goal scoring, because Nicholas Jackson just doesn't fill me with confidence. I've got for Newcastle United in 5th. I think they had a very good season last season, finishing in the Champions League places. But I do think they are going to have to add a bit more depth into their squad, because obviously playing in the Champions League and then in the Premier League 3 days later ain't going to be easy for the players. They've done well bringing in Tonali. Obviously he's got that UCL experience and he's a class player. I think Newcastle have shown that they've got that pull when it comes to attracting big players, and I think they will do well the longer they continue to do that. Eddie Howe's a class manager, and I think he can take this Newcastle team to the next level. And I do think they will have another good season and prove that last season wasn't just a fluke. Coming up in 4th, I've got Arsenal. They spent a lot of money just for 3 players, and I think anywhere below 4th is a failed season for them. They've had a decent preseason, and they're going to look to keep that momentum going. I think their squad depth is decent to be able to handle Champions League midweek and then the Premier League on weekends. Now I think we can all agree that last season was a bit of an off season for Liverpool in terms of where they finished. They still got Europe, and they did well to finish 5th considering where they were at the halfway point of the season. Completely overhauled their midfield, bringing in Szoboszlai and McAllister. Both of them are pretty young, and one's even got a World Cup under his belt. I'm a big fan of Szoboszlai, and I do think he will do well in the attacking role for Liverpool this season. 2nd place, I've gone for my boys, Man United. The signings that Man United have made so far have been pretty good. You know, Onana, Højlund and Mount. We've strengthened everywhere we needed to, and Champions League is finally back at the theatre of dreams. Erik ten Hag had a good first season at Manchester United last season, barring the odd result here and there. But he's a class manager. Man United are finally starting to get rid of that deadwood, which is going to be needed if they want to improve their squad, especially with Champions League football this season. Getting your transfer business done before the season starts is vital. You know, we've seen it in the past where it has hurt teams where they've left it too late to sign players. And of course, to win the league, there's no surprise here, Man City. While City have gotten a bit weaker with Mahrez leaving to Saudi and Gundogan joining Barcelona, I think they've almost strengthened their squad, bringing in Kovacic and Guardiola. You know, we're talking about a team that won the treble last season, and I just don't think there's any doubt they are going to win the league again. Like, mate, they're turning the Premier League into farmers, and with that, they are going to be the first team to win 4 league titles in a row. Right, that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, then make sure to leave a like, and if you're new here, subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments if you do agree with. Like I said, that is it for today's video. Love, peace, take care.